The next morning, the servants came in. Ah, now for the finery again, thought the tree. But they dragged it out of the room and upstairs into the attic, where in a dark corner, without a gleam of daylight, they left it. What's the meaning of this, thought the tree. I wonder what I'm going to do here. I wonder what I'm going to be told here. And leaning up against the wall, it stood thinking and thinking. It had plenty of time for it, for days and nights went by. Nobody came, and when at long last somebody did, it was only to put some big boxes away in a corner. The tree stood quite hidden. Anyone would have thought it was clean forgotten. Oh, it'll be winter outside, thought the tree. The ground will be hard and covered with snow. They won't be able to plant me, so they'll be leaving me here in shelter until the spring. Oh, how very thoughtful of them, how good human beings are. If only it wasn't so dark and so dreadfully lonely. Not even a little hare. It was so nice in the wood when the snow lay around about and the hare bounded past. Why, yes, even when it jumped over me, though I didn't used to like it, it's so awfully lonely up here. Squeak, squeak, said a little mouse just then, popping out of its hole, followed by another one. They came sniffing at the fir tree and slipping in and out among its branches. Isn't it horribly cold, said the little mice. It's a heavenly place, though, except for that, isn't it, old fir tree? I'm not at all old, said the fir tree. There are plenty a lot older than I am. Where do you come from, asked the mice, and what do you know? They were so dreadfully inquisitive. Tell us, please, about the loveliest place on earth. Have you been there? Have you been in the larder where there are cheeses on the shelves and hams hanging under the ceiling, where life's a bed of tallow candles and where you go in lean and come out fat? I don't know the place, said the tree, but I know the wood where the sun shines and where the birds sing. And it told the whole story of its youth. The mice had never heard the like of it, and they listened and said, why, what a lot you've seen. How happy you've been, old fir tree. I'm not old at all, said the tree. I only came out of the wood this winter. I'm in my prime and have only had my growth checked. What a lovely storyteller you are, said the little mice. And the next night, they brought 4 other little mice to listen to the tree. And the more it told, the more clearly it remembered everything, and it thought to itself, yes, they were rather pleasant times, but they may come again. Yes, they may come again. Willy-nilly fell downstairs and yet married the princess, and perhaps I may marry a princess. And the fir tree's thoughts turned to a birch tree, such a pretty little birch tree that grew in the wood. To the fir tree, this was a real lovely princess. Who's Willy-nilly, asked the little mice. And the fir tree told them the whole fairy tale. It remembered every single word of it. And the little mice were ready to jump right to the top of the tree for very joy. The next night, many more mice came, and on the Sunday, even 2 rats. But they said the story wasn't amusing, and this saddened the little mice, for now they, too, thought less of it. Is that the only story you know, asked the rats. That's all, answered the tree. I heard it on the happiest evening of my life, only then I never realized how happy I was. It's an extremely bad story. Don't you know any with bacon and tallow candles in it? No pantry stories? No, said the tree. Then you can keep it, said the rats, and in they went. In the end, the little mice also stayed away. And the tree sighed. It was so nice when the nimble little mice used to sit around me listening to my story. Now even that's all gone. But I'll remember to enjoy myself when I'm taken out again. But when would that be? Well now, one morning, somebody came rummaging about in the attic. The boxes were moved and the tree was pulled out. It was rather rough the way they threw it on the floor, but then all at once a man dragged it towards the stairs where the daylight shone. Ah, now for a new life, thought the tree. It could feel the fresh air and the first sunbeam, and now it was out in the yard. It was all so quick. tree clean forgot to look at itself. There was so much to see around about. The yard was next to a garden. Everything there was in bloom. Roses hung fresh and fragrant. The lime trees were blossoming and the swallows were flying about saying, "Twitter, twitter, tweet, my husband's come." But they didn't mean the fir tree. "Now I shall live," it cried joyfully, spreading wide its branches. But alas, they were all withered and yellow, and it lay in a corner among weeds and nettles. The gold paper star was still at the top, glittering now in the brilliant sunshine. Playing in the yard were a few of the merry children who had danced round the tree at Christmas time and had been so delighted with it. One of the smallest rushed up and tore off the gold star. "Look what's still on this ugly old Christmas tree," he said, trampling on its branches and crunching them under his boots. And the tree looked at all the glorious flowers and fresh growth in the garden, and it looked at itself. And it wished that it had stayed in its dark corner of the attic. It thought of the freshness of youth in the wood, of the merry Christmas Eve, and of the little mice that had listened so delighted to the story of Willy-Nilly. All over, said the poor little tree. If only I'd been happy when I could have been. All over. And the servant came and chopped the tree into little bits, a whole bundle of them. It made a lovely blaze under the scullery copper, and it sighed so deeply, every sigh like a little crackle. So the children playing in the yard ran inside and sat down in front of the fire, looking into it and crying, "Bing bang!" while at each crackle, which was a deep sigh, the tree thought of a summer's day in the wood or a winter's night when the stars were shining. And so in time, it was burnt out. The boys played in the yard, the smallest wearing on his breast the gold star which the tree had worn on its happiest evening. Now that was all over, and it was all over with the tree, and the story's over as well. All over.